Hello and welcome to this After Effects certification preparation series of videos. I'm Luisa Winters. In this video, we're going to cover Objective 1.1D, which is to identify general design principles and guidelines for motion graphics. I'm just going to go through some of the key terms because they may appear on the test. Let's get started. Space. This is the emptiness in between your objects. So the space around your objects. Line is the connection between 2 points. A shape is any two-dimensional area with a recognizable boundary. So a shape is a circle, a square, a triangle, etc., etc. Shapes are a vital part of communicating ideas visually. Form is defined as the shape or visual quality of something. It refers to aesthetics, how a piece looks. Much of a graphic design centers on how we make a work appealing or unappealing, depending on what you're doing, depending on the form. Texture. The general definition of texture in graphic design is the surface quality in a work of art. So it's the visual tone of a design. So we all know something that has a smooth texture or a rough texture. In here you can clearly see the texture of this image. Emphasis or focal point. So what are focal points? Focal points are areas of interest, emphasis, or difference within a composition that capture and hold the viewer's attention. Focal points are a place for the eye to rest in your visual design. It's where you are guiding the eye of the viewer. Unity and harmony. Visual unity is best described as harmony, how everything works together or in harmony in a piece of art or photography or video. It applies to colors, shapes, it applies to everything. Variety is the principle of art that adds interest to our art form. If everything is the same, it would be kind of boring, right? It would be communicating the same message. So variety just adds that little spice that helps with our communication. Balance. The definition of balance in graphic design is really the weight of the objects, and I'm not talking about weight as in pounds, but the weight on the screen that is balanced versus unbalanced, depending on what you are communicating. Alignment. Alignment means the arrangement of various items in relation to borders, right? So you can have something aligned to the left, something aligned to the right, something distributed. And basically, this is one of those terms that is pretty self-explanatory. Things are in alignment or not. Proximity. What is the proximity principle in visual design? Well, the proximity principle is the idea that placing similar design elements close together produces a more effective visual design. And this is because the location of each item creates a spatial relationship with other features on the page. So you can use proximity to communicate your idea a little bit better. Repetition. In graphic design, repetition means using the same element over and over again. You can do it for texture, you can do it for communication, you can do it to illustrate something with more emphasis. So it creates an element of unity, but it creates a more powerful image if you're repeating the same thing over and over. In other words, it just emphasizes what you're trying to communicate. Rhythm. In graphic design, rhythm refers to the relationship between elements in the piece and how they interact together. Big, small, big, small, big, small, medium, big, small, medium. So it's a lot like rhythm in music, but think of it in graphical terms or visual terms instead. Movement. In graphic design, movement doesn't refer necessarily to the actual movement of things, but is the movement in the part of the viewer, where the eye of the viewer goes, and then where it goes next, etc., etc. That indicates movement in graphic design. Negative space. Basically, negative space or white space is the area of the layout that is empty. The most famous one would be the FedEx logo, right? That the empty space is actually creating an arrow. So, and that's pretty cool. And in this case, you can see that the empty space in this particular image is creating a frame that we can use to put anything that we want, or just leave it empty like that, depending on what we're trying to communicate. So it's simply a breathing room that you have on your on the screen. Gestalt principles or laws are rules that describe how the human eye perceives visual elements. These principles aim to show how complex scenes can be reduced to more simple shapes. They also aim to explain how the eyes perceive the shapes as a single, united form rather than the separate, simpler elements involved. So it's basically seeing as a whole. And this brings us not just to the end of this video, but to the end of this section. We are done with this. So on the next video, we're going to open After Effects and we're going to finally work on After Effects. I'm looking forward to that. Thank you for watching and see you on the next video.